What's up, you guys? James Strickland here. Welcome to week 83 on my road to 700 pounds on bench press. So if you tuned in last week, you knew that I was having a pretty good week, and then I got a pec strain, and that normally happens to me maybe once every training cycle, once every other training cycle, but definitely hindered my ability to move forward last week. And so it took some time off. As you guys see, you can check out the week 81, 82 recap, where basically I took some time off and went through kind of my pec strain protocol in hopes that we could have a really good week this week. And so on the agenda this week was 620 for a double. And this is definitely not a PR. It's kind of getting into PR territory for two, but it definitely will put us into good striking distance to start doing singles leading up to the meet. But anyways, if you guys are new to the channel, definitely welcome. Thank you for tuning in. If you guys are longtime followers and subscribers, definitely thank you for following my journey. Welcome back. If you go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on, you guys will be in store for my weekly recaps going forward from now until the meet. And then after the meet, anything else that I have with full power training, anything else after that, you guys can definitely get on board now, but definitely welcome to the channel. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right on into this recap because I've got a few extra things I want to share with you guys this week. So we're going to dive right on into the day one bench day for this week. All right. So we are at Legacy Barbell here. This is Spring, Texas, just north of Houston. Warming up here, being very cautious with my warm-ups. That's 315. I normally do it for one paused rep and then do three quick. That's actually something that I learned from the great Jeremy Hornstra, another great bench presser. And this is basically just firing off the fast twitch muscle here. First one was just kind of getting the rep, getting the weight feel. Going on to 405 here. If you guys saw the recap last week, I strained the pec, so I'm being very cautious here. Definitely wanted to hit right where I need to hit on the chest. Just be cautious. I went ahead and did a double on that 405. This is getting a handoff here with my 495 warm-up. Very, very fast. I'm happy with that. Gonna go through 585, and this will be my last stop before taking the 620. This particular rack does not have safety pins. And if you guys have followed my training for any length of time, you know that I am definitely going to err on the side of caution. I want a spot. I want some sort of catch that's going to catch that bar. So I got some side spotters here, just make sure that I'm safe. Not to mention, I'm a little nervous with the pec. My right pec was bothering me last week. 585 has flown up just as fast as I've ever seen it. Going to show a front view here, just to show, and this is mostly from my own view, so I can make sure that I'm hitting where I need to hit. If you notice, I'm dropping the bar there pretty quick, and I'm going to go into that here in a little bit, but show you guys the 620 for two set here. Basically, as I get heavier, if I have to ramp up quickly, which is kind of what I'm doing on this training cycle. I didn't have this problem about 8 weeks ago because we kind of ramped up a little slower, but because they kind of had to pick a meet that would fit within the confines of time that we have here in the summer, definitely going to have to ramp up the training just to make the 700 mark. But getting a solid lift off here from Tyler. And right here, I actually felt that right pec that was giving me trouble last week. It stretched a little bit. It didn't pop or anything weird, but it definitely did not feel right. I'll go through kind of what was going on here, as the video goes on. But basically, I basically hit and lost tightness. I'm definitely looking at this as a side view. You can see here, get the bar, and right there, I lost tightness. It's kind of hard to see there, but I know how I bench. My shoulders rolled forward just a little bit. My back lost tightness. So I went ahead, called the rest of the day. It was not near as bad as it was last week, but I definitely want to get some work in that is not going to injure me further. The pec is not, it's not serious, so that's definitely nothing to worry about. But I'm going to go ahead and get some back work in here and try to salvage what I can of this particular training day. Basically, if you guys watched last week's recap, I took about 8 days off and came back in after my injury protocol, my ice, my heat, massage. I did run some IPA Morellin, which is a peptide. You guys are more than welcome to ask me about that, in particular doses and things like that. But that's all I had for the last time around. And I think basically that in a mixture of technique that kind of broke down there during that lift was a bad combination. I was not 100% healed coming in after 8 days, and so that just aggravated the pec more. I do, rest assured, this is actually, this recap is done actually a couple weeks after this bench day, and I can tell you right now I'm 110% now. I've actually done this particular weight that I failed today and more, so that is the good thing, but I will go through some more details here after the recaps are done. But this is my day 2. I have done a little bit more rest this particular week. Basically my ice for 3 days, heat, massage, light stretching, not a lot of stretching or extra stretching on the pec or anything like that, just because it will irritate it, and I need to, the best thing at this point is literally resting the pec and not pushing it. Obviously 8 days was not enough, so it is a little scary. Definitely, you know, kind of questioning, am I going to be able to hit the weights that I need to hit to be able to do the meet? Should I call the meet off? You know, all those things are in my head. And instead of it being more of a depressive state, it's basically just okay, cautious, let me figure out what I can do. But if you notice the weight here on this rear delt, this is a PR. You know, I told you I was going to salvage what I could out of these training days. This does not stress the pec at all. 425 pounds is a massive, massive PR for my rear delts. But I am working on my rear delts being very much of a stabilizer in my bench. I want to make sure that I am not losing my tightness, and these rear delts play a huge role in that, among other muscles. So I definitely want to utilize, strengthen these, and making sure these are not going to be the weak spot. Definitely a technique breakdown can make the strongest of muscles look as if they're not playing their part. But if you don't have the technique down, it can definitely take hundreds of pounds off of your strength. So technique is very, very important. And even at my level, it is very, very important. And I can have bad days just like anybody else. It's not the best, but it definitely can expose some weaknesses, and that's the whole point of training, is you want to expose your weaknesses and then kill them and literally make them your strengths. So plenty of back work this week. Back is not irritating the pec at all. I am taking these reps very, very cautiously because I don't want to have the weight pulled down, and I don't want to have anything that's out of whack to mess that pec up. But I was able to work up to a clean set of 405. This 455, now that I'm looking at it, it's actually not too bad, but it wasn't my cleanest. It didn't feel like I was getting a real big range of motion on this. But this is one of many sets. Obviously I had the dumbbells, the rear delts, which is not necessarily back, but definitely working on all of the areas that I can while letting that pec rest. But my back has definitely gotten a lot stronger. I'm going to attribute a lot of my back work to a very, very big bench press to come. Now this is done about 5 days later, and basically I'm just working with the bar. And the idea here is to see how it treats the pec. If the pec gets irritated, I actually did 10 sets of 10 here. So the idea is, if any point in time this actually irritates the pec or makes it hurt worse, then something is wrong and I'm not healing properly. This actually felt really, really good. which is a great sign. I don't feel like I could have put a lot of extra weight on it, and I definitely wouldn't advise that, but definitely working on going wider, exposing the pec a little bit just to see where we're at. And this is basically just biofeedback. It's telling me where my pec is at, and it's definitely not 100%, but it feels like it's better than it was the previous week. So the idea is to let it rest still with some active recovery. So I'm definitely still icing a little bit, not as much at this point in time because I've already got a lot of the inflammation out, and I'm really just working on getting some blood flow, working on some seated rows here, another back exercise, really just working on making sure that I'm not losing tightness because I don't want to irritate the pec. But I'm salvaging what I can because at this point in time, I don't know if the pec is going to affect me for the following week and so on. And if it does, I don't want to lose any other strengths that I may have, like triceps or back, anything like that. So I'm definitely not giving up. I am being very, very cautious. In talks with my coach about this time of the week, this was about 4 days after I had the idea that we have a planned deload 2 weeks from now, and instead of taking it then, I'm definitely contemplating taking it next week and doing it on my week 84. And so that being an active rest week where I can ramp the weight up just a little bit and still give myself time to let that pec heal, because obviously 8 days was not enough time. So that is the end of the week 83 recap. So we are actually, just to kind of fast forward, I am doing this recap actually after my 85 bench day. So I can promise you we are good to go. We have done another heavy bench day. This is actually fast forward 3 weeks into the future. Sorry to do that to you guys, but I typically, it's basically I want to make sure that I was going to be okay before going heavy again. I will show you guys on my week 84 what I did for the deload here in just a minute, but I want to talk to you guys a little bit about my mindset and what was going on. So basically, I strained my pec on the 605 it was supposed to be a triple, ended up kind of not really going through with the triple, was going to just do a double, came back, rested a few minutes, hit a double. Didn't feel like anything was pulled until I actually, after I was stripping down the 600 and was going to go for like 515, 3 sets of 3 for speed. And during the time that I was actually unracking the weight from the 605 down to the 515, I just felt my pec kind of didn't feel smooth, and it just almost felt like I had a knot in there and something just didn't feel right. As you guys know, I'm very much in tune with my body and how things feel. And so I kind of sat there for a minute and I thought, I don't feel right about pushing this pec. For some reason, it just doesn't feel right. So went with 315, and if you guys saw the recap, obviously that didn't work out well. I took 8 days rest, and if you go back to the last week's 82, 83 recap, or 81, 82 recap, sorry, I'm confusing myself here. I actually talked about how I did my protocol, and that normally works very, very well. For some reason, this particular time it didn't, and I went into bench day this particular day for the 620 for 2. It was actually a day later, so instead of it being on a Monday, I was going to do it on Tuesday. I felt great. I felt really, really good. I wasn't taking any chances. I didn't feel like I was gambling, that thing was off. The 585 warm-up felt amazing, as you saw, and I didn't have any reason to believe that it would be dumb to attempt 620. I did not feel anything. Had I felt anything before the 620, I would have called it a day and just chalked it up to I need to rest some more. But I didn't feel that. And this is one of those rare times in my training that I've actually had that happen in a way that didn't benefit me. But it's bound to happen sooner or later. I'm glad it wasn't more serious than when it was. I did strain the pec a little bit more, but I would say, I don't know what percentage the pec strain. It was obviously a very low grade strain from week 81. But let's say it healed about 80% versus what I thought was 100%. and I strained it back down to maybe 70%. So it didn't go backwards too much. It wasn't really, really bad. But I did say, you know what, I need to take more time this week to just back off, give myself probably a good 13 days of rest and recovery, not stress that pec out. And actually by day 8 the following week, I actually felt 100% again. But obviously that didn't work the first time around, so I planned a deload with my coach for the week that I would felt 100%, which gives me another 8 days to rest and recover. And I'm going with a little bit of weight. Obviously, the deload typically is about 60%. This particular week, we did not do anything crazy heavy. I did work up, as you'll see here in a minute, I worked up to a little bit of about a 50% mark, and that felt amazing. And that still gave me 5 days of rest before my next bench day, which the following week, and I won't tell you guys what that is just yet, but I can tell you it was a very successful day. That happened yesterday, and I'll catch you guys up with that on the next recap. But I wanted to fast forward in the future because when I tell this to you guys, when I tell you guys my injury protocols, they're not surefire ways to stay healthy. It's just definitely a very good percentage chance that you will not hurt yourself again, that you will be healed for the next day, but you got to listen to your body. This particular time, it just happened that I was not 100%, and combining that with a breakdown of technique, it definitely strained the pec more. So I basically rested after this week. The following Monday, I did do some light bench, and I'm going to go ahead and jump right into that recap now. So basically, my deloads are, here we go. My deloads are basically about 75%, and the weight on this particular week is definitely not that percentage. It would be way too high. All right, so I'm doing this at my home gym and working with 90 pounds here. So obviously very, very light. I did feel 100%. You can see there's no breakdown here. I'm really just working on making sure the weight is moving smoothly. Did 10 sets of 10 with this. So it really, and actually I believe I broke this down into 5 sets of 20. I'm speeding it up here for you guys. But don't feel anything whatsoever. I don't feel any type of pain. And that's the whole point. If I felt anything that felt off, then we'd need to address that immediately. I am going through this deload week with the aspirations that the meet will still go on, but I am actually kind of thinking, well, I may need to postpone the meet if things do not feel better, and that's always an option. So there's not really any rules at this point. These are 8-pound dumbbells, so really nothing heavy at all, but working the blood flow here on the pecs. These are my pause floor flies, and feels really, really, really good. You know, it's very easy if you've ever had any type of minor strain or injury that prevents you from training at any degree. You can probably relate to me where you have to keep your mind in check, because you can really get down on yourself and really think, you know, I'm crippled here and I can't do what I need to do. And it's irritating because, you know, especially if you're on the track to doing something really good, it's very, very irritating and very disconcerting. I was able to go a little heavy on back, or heavier on back. This is definitely not super deload week weight for back, but the lats, for what I'm used to doing, this is definitely backed off. So I'm definitely not going like 50% or anything low on back. I want to keep the back a little bit fired up here. And I really am not in need of a true deload at this point. So this deload is definitely more of an injury deload, or an injury prevention deload. Working on some tricep work here. This is nothing too crazy heavy. Once again, this is a little bit too close to the pec region, and I don't want to irritate anything here, so I'm just trying to stay out of any type of stabilizer muscles moving into the pecs. So just working on the motion here, working on perfect technique and holding those triceps down. But once again, I am thinking, okay, if I can feel 100%, which I do feel 100% now, but if I can maintain that in through the weekend, then the next bench day, I feel confident with going with what I need to go with. Now, I am working on some stabilizer muscles here. I don't have a bamboo bar, but a broomstick, as you can see here, works just fine. And some bands there to provide kind of an unstable surface or an unstable, when you press it, they're definitely trying to, you're trying to adjust through the whole range of motion. This is not super heavy, but it definitely, you can see I'm having to work on just keeping it steady. This really helps with the stabilizer muscles and the shoulders, and it really just feels really therapeutic. It just feels good. So I did a few sets of that just to keep things rolling, and I'm going to keep those going here for the next few weeks, regardless of what I'm doing. So I am back at Species Gym here in Katy, doing my rear delts. Now obviously it doesn't look like a deload considering I'm doing the full stack here, but if you remember last week, 425 was the full stack plus 2 100-pound plates. So this is definitely deload week weight. I am doing some light pec work here. This is mostly to get some blood flow in there. It feels really good. I definitely felt like the strength is already back to do the full stack and then some. In fact, I could very well get close to probably the same that I can rear delt fly. I can definitely pec deck fly. But once again, remind you this is a deload. So this is what I was talking about. Testing the strength here with some 315. I just did a quick set of 10 on this one. And then after this set, I don't believe I filmed it, but I did a quick set of 15. This is 50% of what is needed for next week. And this obviously tested the waters very well. Felt very good there. I did have access to an earthquake bar here from Bandel. And so doing the same concept here with the stabilizer. Feet up just to make it a little bit more difficult. And I'm going a little wider to really expose the pecs. At this point in the week, this is already about 10 days after post strain. So everything does feel 100%, but I'm trying to see if I can, not irritate it on purpose, but I want to make sure that everything is, if it's going to bother me with 315, it's definitely going to bother me with 620 plus next week. And it is not bothering me yet, so I'm building my confidence slowly. Working on some lat pull downs here. Once again, nothing heavy. This particular pulley makes the weight stack just a little bit heavier than what it looks like, but still well below what I'm used to be, you doing on lat pull downs. And going to get these tricep push downs here. Perfect form. Working on the full stack. Once again, not a big deal, but definitely keeping the triceps engaged throughout the whole range of motion and definitely holding them at the bottom. One other thing I want to stress, no matter what kind of deload you're taking, you want to really work on perfect technique. That is the key. So that is going to be it for, I'm sorry, I totally messed things up there. Yeah, all right, so that's it for that. Sorry about that, you guys, some technical difficulties. So anyways, that is the end of my injury deload week. So once again, to kind of recap kind of the timeline that's happened is I strained my pec, my left pec on 605 a few weeks back. It didn't fully heal. It was kind of a surprise to me because I felt like it fully healed. Went for 620 for 2, strained it coming down, and basically the bar dropped a little too fast and my shoulders rolled forward. And when I went to correct and pull my shoulder blades back as I was going to press, my pec was overworked and that strained it even more. So since that day, took the time off. I took 13 full days off. About 4 of those days I did 20 minutes a day ice, or 20 minutes 3 times a day ice. So I just put an ice pack on my shoulder, in this area, let it numb up basically, pull it off, let it get to room temperature, and then maybe 2 or 3 hours later, put another ice pack on and do that again, maybe or nightfall. The day 5 or so, once the pain had subsided, which at this particular time around wasn't really painful, but I definitely felt something. I felt actually a knot. That's when I started slowly massaging my pec. Nothing crazy, didn't want to irritate it, didn't want to bruise anything. I was looking for bruising to make sure there's no tears or anything like that. And I did start maybe by day 7 and 8, where I was putting heat on it. So I would put like an actual heating pad or hot water, and I would just make the area get warm, get some blood flow in there, and I'd start really massaging it a little bit more. And at this point, I was able to work the knot out. I just had some inflammation in there, some different, just bad blood in there that I'm trying to get out. And I did start working on my a car buffer that I've had. You guys probably seen in my recovery videos. I've got a car buffer that I use. I've got a hammer it's a one of those, I can't even think right now, but basically one of the handheld massage tools that I can really work with this area, and then started working on stretching it. So really just getting it open, getting up against a wall, and just kind of not too hard of a stretch. I'm not trying to overstretch things or pull things, but definitely a lot of band work. So band pull aparts, band where I might hook it up to a rack and just pull apart, so where I'm actually working the pec, and it's nothing crazy heavy. That was pretty much a daily thing for the next 7 days or so. Then went into the weekend, felt great. Actually eating, sleeping very, very well. Definitely feel like my whole body is recovered. So the deload, even though I really didn't feel like I needed one, my joints, my elbows, anything that would be normally nagging me a little bit as we get heavier, has just kind of disappeared. It's melted away. So it kind of sucks that we aren't able to go super heavy right away, but it's definitely smarter to work smarter. And it's like I took 1 step forward and then I had to take 2 steps back. And then the next week I thought I was going to take 2 steps forward and I took another step back. So I'm 3 steps back. Now, 3 steps back sucks when you want to be 3 steps forward, but it's definitely better than being 10 steps back 10 months from now and having to continually go backwards. Sometimes you just have to take a step back and realize that your body's not a freaking machine, and just let things happen naturally and heal up. Now, I wanted to cover my peptides. Now, I don't have all the doses and everything like that because honestly, I think it varies by person, and I would definitely consult a doctor before doing any type of thing like this. And you can definitely get bro science, but the information is across the board. The first week that I had the pec strain, I had some ipamorelin that I had left over from a previous cycle. It doesn't go bad. Well, it does, but this was definitely, it wasn't expired. And I had that on hand. I went ahead and used that for the first go round. Maybe, I'm not sure if I would have had the other peptides on hand, if it would have sped things up. I'm sure it would have, but who knows at this point. So I think in a combination of rest and recovery, additional rest and recovery for the second week, in addition to not only just ipamorelin, but BPC 157 and TB 500. Those are the other 2 peptides that I really, really believe in, because anytime I've ever had a serious strain, and I would consider this one a serious strain, even though it wasn't like a tear or anything crazy, to me it's serious because it caused me to back off my training. And to me, that's serious enough. So I went ahead and did, normally it's a daily regimen that I do. Definitely can maybe just shoot me an email, swimhack@gmail.com. I'd be happy to share with you my peptide regimen and what worked for me. I would definitely consult a doctor and just say, here, is this advisable? They may tell you because of certain things or whatever, and definitely don't want to, I'm not prescribing you guys anything because I am not a doctor. I'm not going to pretend to be. There may be certain things in those peptides. I don't know enough about them to know if there's any type of interactions with anything you might be currently taking. So definitely consult a professional. I could not be more adamant about that. Do not take my word for it. I know from what I've taken, doctors have supervised it and they're okay with what I do, and that is recommended. So this time around, I ran the full cycle of peptides, and it was basically about a 10-day cycle of it. And I couldn't say more about it. It's literally like superhuman strength or superhuman healing, not strength, but it basically heals things up faster. That in conjunction with rest and recover, proper nutrition, and backing off everything, it's basically healed everything up 100%. And I can tell you that with absolute certainty, 150%, because yesterday I hit a big PR. Well, not a PR. It was to me, it's a PR because I'm definitely coming out of a handicap stage of having 2 strains and just being kind of down and out. But I was able to go 25 pounds more than I've gone this particular set of training cycle since we've restarted training. So we are well on our way to being ready for the meet. I'm still questioning whether or not we're going to have enough time to really peak all the way to 700. But here's the thing. This meet is definitely going to go down either with a PR of above 672 or the 700 goal. So obviously 700 plus is definitely what I want. But at this point in time, because of the hand that I've been dealt and the circumstances that have gone on leading up to the last meet that was canceled, and obviously this meet with the 2 strains, I'm going to take what I can get. And if that means leaving with a PR, that's still a win in my book. But I'm playing it smart. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't all of a sudden get things heavier all of a sudden, which is definitely possible, but I want to be cautious. But that is going to wrap it up for this particular, when there's kind of a combined recap again. Sorry I'm doing this to you guys, but I want you to follow along with what's going on in training. If you guys are following me already on Instagram, definitely you know what is going down. You can kind of get a sneak peek of what's been going on and what we've been doing. So definitely excited. But I figured I would bring this recap to you after I had the news from my latest bench day because for one, I know what happened, and I can definitely tell you with absolute certainty that my protocol this particular time around, we are good to go. But I hate, I've done recaps in the past where I got to the point to where I was like, oh, I hope tomorrow's good, and it didn't end up being a good day. Now that's the bad side of training. That's kind of the bad days that you're going to have, and I want to share that with you guys just as much as I want to share the good days. In fact, I think sharing the bad days with you guys, or the negative side of things, or not always the glamorous side of powerlifting and lifting, really makes everything worthwhile when you actually achieve something, because you can, and I ultimately want you guys to be able to relate to me, regardless of what level I'm on with lifting. We have all had strains. We have all had a bad day in the gym, and I want you guys to just know that, or just know how I handle them and what happens, and that it's actually going to be okay. We all have feelings, we all have emotions, and we can always, learn from one another and kind of pull each other along and help each other out and support each other. And that's really what I want to do with my training with you guys, is I want you guys to see that I'm just a guy having fun with lifting that happens to be at a high level, and I want to stay at this level. And so this is how I stay at this level. This is how I compete at this level and deal with adversity. And I actually don't believe that I have had near the adversity that I could have had, but I also believe that I prevent a lot of it by going through my protocols the way I do. So once again, you guys, if you guys are new to the channel, definitely welcome. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and just let me in your life, in your home, share my knowledge with you guys. I'm open to questions anytime. Sooner or later, I'm going to start up my Q&As. I haven't actually gotten a whole bunch of questions on the comments lately, but you guys are more than welcome to answer me questions. What I'll do is when I start getting back on the normal scheme of things, I will put some of those question and answers together into a segment where I'll actually answer them right here on the recap, and I'll tag you guys and let you guys basically let everybody know who asked me the question and just answer it right here on the recap. But once again, if you guys are not following me on Instagram, you guys are over there, please follow me at SwimHack. Put a lot of my daily videos, my family videos, just a different side of lifting. Not always the glitz and glamour of the big lifts, but sometimes the family time, what I'm eating, which I know a lot of you guys like to follow. Definitely love to eat, so if you guys are over there, I'd appreciate a follow. You can definitely shoot me a DM over there. That's a very fast way to get in touch with me. You can shoot me an email, swimhack@gmail.com. Just leave a comment. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm going to let you guys go for this week, but I will wrap up this particular week of training. I have one more training day, and I will put together the recap for week 85. and let you guys see that big bench day that went down. Got a lot of speed work in, got some accessory work done. Very, very excited going forward. We have 3 more training days until the meet. So we've got a small window to improve and to kind of ramp up training. I think we can get to the mid to upper 600s for a good solid training lift. And that'll set us up definitely for a PR. I think we can get, there's a good chance we can get pretty close to getting upwards of maybe 675, 680, and then go for a 705 at the meet. But hopefully the world doesn't shut down on us again. I know we're talking about in Texas that some of the gyms and some things are going to shut down just due to some of the stuff that's going on in the world. But hopefully I can slide in under the radar and get this meet out of the way and not have this one canceled. But stay tuned. Stay tuned, you guys. Things are definitely getting heavier. Definitely thank you for following along on my journey. And once again, to you guys that are new, welcome. And I will see you guys next week. See you.